This is Dakoyu's brand new tool, the Reborn, and it may do exactly that for the brand because this is probably my favorite tool of theirs to drop yet. This is a fantastic rendition of a couple tool designs mesh all together, and it really works on this tool. Now, as far as design-wise, what this tool is, essentially it's a Leatherman mutt and a Leatherman signal combined to form this tool, which is a civilian version of the mutt, adding signal elements such as some of the outdoor whistle and ferrule rod elements with the hammer that each of them has. So let's go ahead and look at this tool. Let's go ahead and start on the inside. I guess that will be the first thing to get out of the way. Now, on the inside, we find this really nice set of pliers, replaceable wire cutters. We've got this crimper right here at the bottom. We've got these nice little cutouts right here. And then on the end, the pliers come very nice together. These are very smooth, no issues like Leatherman has with binding up, anything like that. Now, the tools will all be on the outside of the rest of the tools besides the pliers. So let's go ahead and look at the outside. Now, this will be the big change down here, but let's go ahead and take a look at these. Now, these will be locking tools on the outside. A pretty large knife right there. It looks pretty beefy. And then on this side will be the saw. That will be a little bit smaller because of the handle implementation, looks like. But yeah, it looks like a pretty sharp saw right there as well. And then on the other side, perhaps my least favorite tool is the file. This file doesn't feel especially coarse. And then on this side, we have the scissors. Now, whenever I see scissors and they're black or black oxide or whatever, always makes me nervous. So let's go ahead, cut some paracord, see how these scissors are. Some are great, some are not so great. These actually cut very good. So I'm pleasantly surprised that these scissors actually seem to be pretty good. And then I might go ahead and jump into this scissor test and just go ahead and cut to the seat belt, because I assume since it's already sliced through paracord, it'll probably do pretty good with some of the other stuff. So yes, it does cut through the seat belt. And then sometimes some of the hardest stuff to cut is this right here. But these scissors are cutting right through. So they seem to work pretty good. Right, then looking on the end of this handle, we have a nice Leatherman bit driver. Now this one right here will not work exactly like the Leatherman drivers do. They have, I think, a spring system, and I believe this has a magnet retention system. Now, talking about Leatherman bit drivers, they have been very generous from Dakoyu, and at least for me, they sent a whole bunch of extra things. Not only did they send the bits, but then they actually sent this sheath, and then they actually sent some extra parts for where the whistle goes. And so I have a knife sharpener, the ferrule rod, and a small, more like a micro Phillips driver. So I think all of these could come in very handy, but it is very nice to have that bit kit. And then you can use these with your Leatherman if you have them, or your Mossy Oak G10, I believe it is. Yeah, all these ones that use these Leatherman style bit drivers, your Next Tool Captain, all these can interchange and use these bits, which is pretty nice. Now on this side, we do have the whistle and the ferrule rod, and then you can put, just like I showed you, this Phillips screwdriver, and that fits in like so. And then let's get that out, or you could have your knife sharpener. So I've gone ahead and picked the knife sharpener off the floor, and there it is in that slot. Now let's go ahead and just try this whistle. So if these things annoy you, cover your ears. Yeah, it seems pretty loud. A little bit too loud for me, but that is really a nice tool, and I love it how they've come up with this creativity and added more tools in there. Now this, I just want to reemphasize, this is not a Leatherman mutt. I know a lot of people will say, well, it's just a Leatherman mutt. Well, it isn't. It doesn't have the pocket clip. The hammer is designed even a little bit differently. You can tell at the bottom they are shaped differently. This is definitely not a 1-for-1. The tools on the outside are different. And yeah, there's not this same mechanism. There's a lot of things that are different with this tool. So just so everyone's clear, this is not a Leatherman mutt, nor is it the same as the Leatherman Signal. So it is definitely its own tool, although it does obviously take some heavy inspiration from the tools that I showed you. Now, right here is the clip right here, and then there is this hammer end that looks pretty beefy right here, and then there is what looks like potentially could be a replaceable cutter. That is really cool. This is a fantastic tool, and one of the things that it makes me think about is why didn't Leatherman do this a long time ago? It just makes sense. So recently, I showed you that Gerber made an MP1, and they made it for like the military, a squad MP1, and then they made like an infantry, and then they made a civilian version, which makes sense. And so this is essentially Dakoyu, because Leatherman Dent made the civilian version of this, which, yeah, just really, really makes sense. Now, I know there is a version where it has, one of these has like a special cap crimper and one doesn't, but there's still, this is basically, most of these tools are for gun maintenance. So this one right here just, yeah, makes so much sense. All right, now let's go ahead and talk about price. This does come in at $69. Now, some people may take a big gulp at that price, I understand, but then it does come with a pouch. This pouch really is not my favorite. It sort of wallows around in there, but there is a pouch. And then the bits are great. And then, like I said before, it comes with some extras, which I think are pretty great as well. All right, so I'll go ahead and put this on the scale, and it comes in at 305 grams. Let's test that against the mutt, and that comes in a little bit lighter at 297. And then when we switch this to ounces, comes in at 10.8 ounces, and the mutt comes in around 10.5. So yeah, just a little bit heavier, hardly, but yeah, just barely a little bit heavier. So pretty much the same size in weight and pretty much the same size in length. Although when I compare these, it looks like the mutt might be marginally longer. Is that just my eyes tricking me? It looks like it is, just a little bit. Now, Dakoyu says on their website this is about 4.9 inches long, so I measured it somewhere around 5 inches. So from both ends, it's about 5 inches long. Now, one of the tools that I forgot to mention was this bit holder on this side. There's a little magnet right there, and then it comes with this T6 and the T8, which I know are very common sizes for tightening pocket knives and so forth. So that's pretty cool right there that you have that included, and then you have this that rests in the handle. So how does the Dakoyu Reborn work in actual life? Well, I was able to use it today up on the roof of the hospital where I work, working on an exhaust fan to see if it was working, and I was able to use it just like this as a screwdriver. I guess the only complaint that I would have is that this tip can have a tendency to dig a bit into your hand, but it's the same problem with the original Leatherman mutt. So there are creative ways that you can get around that. You can use it like this, which was a little awkward, or I suppose in the right circumstance, you could almost use it like this, depending on what part you're working on. So it's not a huge deal, but I did want to share that with you. So overall, I find this tool really good value. I really like this. I think that's excellent to actually have a hammer end on a Leatherman Surge style plier head. And to me, yeah, that just makes sense. So I figured that some people would probably say, yeah, but how does this stack up against the Byberry Signal clone already out there? Well, this shows that this one right here, the Reborn, is definitely a little bit bigger, a little bit beefier. The hammer end, ironically, on this one is a little bit wider, but it is definitely shorter. So they both have their advantages. This one right here does have the opportunity for the 1/4 inch driver, but I don't really like that on the side. This one right here, you can use a Leatherman to 1/4" adapter, and then you can just stick it right in there on the end, which probably I would prefer. So both of these have some unique characteristics. I think they both can handle different problems. Now, if you're wondering what is a Reborn made out of, well, glad you asked. The plier head is 4CR13. The knife is 5CR15 MOV. Other implements are 2CR13. And that is the information that you find with the instructions that are given with the tool. Now, just about the time that Dakoyu sends this Reborn to my house, they put out a post on YouTube that says, hey, guess what? We've got a new version of this that comes with not just a straight blade, but a half serrated and half straight blade. And on the bottom where this hammer is, we've got titanium plating technology. And I looked at the picture and it looks really, really nice. So that is the same price as this original one. If that interests you, make sure to check that out before you buy this one. I think Dakoyu is doing great things, and I have a couple more tools to show you coming up in the next couple videos.